Democratic presidential candidates are all in on New Hampshire with the next nominating contest just days away. This comes as Iowa Democrats say they have finally reported all the results from Monday's caucus. CBS News cannot declare a winner, but the delegate count shows former Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Senator Bernie Sanders essentially tied for first. This comes as there are increasing calls for a recanvass. Ed O'Keefe is in Manchester, New Hampshire. Ed, is that recanvass likely to happen?
No, Laura, it probably isn't, because no candidate has requested a recanvass, that has to happen by this afternoon. And the two candidates who are actually winning certainly don't want one at this point. Pete Buttigieg actually found out he'd prevailed last night during a town hall meeting, and that he won by just a 1/10 of a percentage point in the state delegate count.
Well, it's fantastic news to hear that we won.
Former Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Senator Bernie Sanders are claiming victory in the Iowa caucuses.
We did very well. We won in Iowa.
Even saying so before the Iowa Democratic Party released the final results late Thursday.
If that argument is about electability and the ability to win, we just had the first election of the 2020 process.
So what I want to do today, 3 days late, is to thank the people of Iowa.
Why not let Iowa finish counting first before declaring victory?
Given the fact that we have waited 3 days, and now there is the talk of another recount, maybe we might want the decisions of the Iowa caucus before the November election.
With 100% of precincts now reporting, the results show Buttigieg with 26.2% of state delegates and Sanders 26.1%. But Sanders leads Buttigieg in the popular vote by more than 2,600 votes.
This was, a major league failure.
Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez says there were errors reported in a number of Iowa precincts and a recanvass is necessary.
I want to make sure that every Iowa voter knows that their vote was counted.
But Sanders and Buttigieg want to move on and are looking ahead to Tuesday's primary.
I think we have an excellent chance to win here in New Hampshire.
Recent polling shows Sanders on top, with Buttigieg closest behind, followed by Senator Elizabeth Warren, former Vice President Joe Biden, and Senator Amy Klobuchar.
New Hampshire is a state that has never been told what to do.
Right.
And we've got to earn every vote and earn a win on Tuesday night right here.
So, Ed, we know Sanders and Buttigieg, they're going to be on the stage tonight. How are they going to be riding the momentum from Iowa into the debate?
I mean, always hard to predict what's going to happen in the debate. Here's what I know. Anyone else is probably going to try to stall that momentum in some way by either raising concerns about their record, their lack of experience, their electability. We can expect some kind of conversation yet again about health care and how to pay for it, because, of course, that is the signature issue for Bernie Sanders and has been the signature issue of concern to voters across this state and across the country throughout this primary process. And then, if Joe Biden wants to continue what he started just the other day, you can expect that he would raise concerns about Buttigieg's lack of experience in running a significantly large organization. He was calling out the fact that Buttigieg, while he's a good guy, he said, appreciate his service, has only run a city of about 100,000 people in Indiana. Is that exactly who Democrats want to nominate to be president? If he picks that up tonight, it would be a fascinating back and forth between the two of them.
It would, between Biden and Buttigieg, regarding experience. But the other candidates who didn't perform quite so well in Iowa, perhaps Warren, Klobuchar, Yang, what do they need to do tonight to get a better result for Tuesday's primary?
They got to throw some punches, Laura. They got to find a way to get back into this debate. They got to figure out how it is they convince voters. Yeah, they got to figure out how to convince voters who see Buttigieg and Sanders now on top. And get them to come back to them. People say this is a critical debate for Joe Biden. Look, I actually think it's probably more critical for Elizabeth Warren, because if she can't somehow finish either a strong third or higher in New Hampshire, where does she go? She has an operation in Nevada. It's a decent size. There's no Super Tuesday state we know of right now where she's prevailing. South Carolina will be a struggle for her if Joe Biden's lead among black voters continues. So I'd argue she probably has the biggest job to do tonight, and if she can't, it may not be much longer for her. We'd have to see.
All right, all eyes and ears on Warren. And as we mentioned, CBS News cannot declare a winner as far as the Iowa caucuses, but Buttigieg and Sanders are at the top in that virtual tie. What does winning the Iowa caucus really mean, though, especially when it comes to the delegate count?
Well, yes, and that is all that matters, the national delegate count. You need about 1,990 delegates to be the Democratic nominee. I'm going to drop these because they're just totally failing me right now. 1,990 delegates in order to win the Democratic nomination, and each of them is likely at this point, based on our estimates, to get 10. So that just shows you how far we have to go. But you want bragging rights, and it is essentially, in the delegate count at least, they're going to have to admit that they're tied. And so, in essence, they both won. And that is what makes New Hampshire now even more critical, what makes Nevada in a few days even more critical. Because if one of them can get ahead and start building that delegate lead, then certainly it'll help them. Usually you want to come out of Iowa with a big head of steam, demonstrate to New Hampshire voters you have momentum. Sometimes New Hampshire voters turn around and say, well, that's nice what Iowa did. We're going to do this. And we'll see if perhaps they can provide a little more definition to the early days of this race.
Well, Ed, thank you for helping us see this race so clearly, even when you can't.
Have a good weekend, Laura.